I believe our next guest is ready. He's all warmed up and in to close it out for us here on the Kaufman Show. Frankly, there's nobody that I would rather have doing that for us, except for the hat. I still have issues with the hat.
Leave the hat. He started that. He started that. Every guy is wearing the hat that way.
Trendsetter and former Expo, former Washington National. And we're going to get his take on the MLB postseason, among other things. Welcome back to the program, Chad Cordero.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Just driving home from Disneyland, so everything's good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How are the fireworks?
It was good. We actually left right before they happened because it was getting a little bit too crowded. So wanted to beat the rush.
Cool. Well, I think it's very interesting that you spent the day at Disneyland instead of watching your former team play.
Yeah, I caught the first couple of innings of the game and stuff, but then me and my wife were trying to plan a day to go to Disneyland because just the two of us. Because it's kind of hard to go on the rides that we want to go on when we take the two kids. So today my mother-in-law had the day off, so we took the kids over there, dropped the kids off, and got to go on some big rides. So it was fun.
I saw you tweet out a couple of weeks ago that the California Disneyland is far superior to Florida's Disney World. Why is that?
I think it's just because, for me, I'm just so used to it. I grew up within 20 minutes from there, so, I just used to going to Disneyland like all the time, and, I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. Plus, like the Disney World is just, I don't know, it's just too much, It's hard to go on all the rides and stuff. You take buses everywhere. It takes so long to get to each place, and I don't know, Disneyland's just a lot more fun.
How's the comeback going, Chad?
It's going pretty good. I'm actually going to Japan here in about a week to work to train with the old strength coach from the Nationals because he's from Japan and stuff, and I got in contact with him and going to go out there for about a month to work out. So everything's going pretty good right now. That's
not the same guy that was with the Expos, is it?
Yeah, Kazoo. I've known him. Since I first started and stuff, and just always stayed in contact with him. And he always he gave me an invite a couple of years ago. I just had never took him up on it. So, I thought about it this year. It's like, why not? Go give it a shot. I want to be in the best shape I could possibly be. And so, I'm gonna go do that. Plus, I know how hard the Japanese work. So I figured go out there, work out for a couple of weeks, and see what happens.
So what's the plan then? Is to go out there for a bit and then start getting in touch with major league teams, seeing who wants to invite you down for spring training?
Yeah, cause I've been throwing for about the last month and stuff, and last 2 months, and so I'll go over there, continue to throw, lift, run, do everything I can to get ready, and then once I get back, I'll have my agent hopefully call some teams and stuff, and hopefully set up a workout. So.
Earlier, about a month ago, you took a trip to Washington, and did you throw at a first pitch, or were you honored before the game, or something like that?
Yeah, I was actually able to throw at the first pitch against the Braves one game, and it was awesome. It was actually like a dream come true. I never thought, I'd ever have a chance to throw at a first pitch, and just an opportunity arose where, they offered to have me out there, and I jumped on it. So it was a lot of fun. They gave me a jersey and stuff, and my whole family got to go out on the field with me. So it was really cool.
Would you say that that's your team, or have you sort of since retirement reverted to the team that you cheered for growing up?
No, I'm still a Nationals fan. I grew up a Giants fan, too. So I still trying to follow them as well. But I'm a Nationals fan now. A diehard now. So I try and follow them as much as I can. Because I still have a lot of ties there. Now my old college catcher and roommate is actually their starting catcher now, Kurt Suzuki. So I even have even more ties now there too. So I try to follow them as much as I can.
What if Montreal gets a team, Chad? Put you on the spot here a little bit.
I'm gonna have to root for them too. I might even have to take a trip out there.
Well, I think you could take a trip out here, Chad, without there being a ball club. There's, I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from, there's a lot of kids out here that would love to gain some knowledge from you on how to play the game properly.
I know. I would love to do that. I've always talked to my wife because she's never been out there before. I always talked about how great of a city it was. It's just a shame that baseball wasn't able to to stick there. But I love this city. I always told my wife, it just reminded me of being in Europe or something. It's just so different than anywhere else I'd ever been.
We're in conversation with former Expo and National Chad Cordero, and it seems to be we're in the midst of trying to convince him. Doesn't seem to be too hard to convince him that he's going to be having to come to Montreal soon. So,
yeah, you don't have to push my arm too hard.
No, good stuff. Good
be
to
cool
know.
to see him in uniform one of these days.
Sounds like it's going to happen. And it's you broke the story with us last February, and we really appreciated it. And Jay and I both laughed a lot when we saw it in the news in, what was it, May or June?
Yeah,
Chad Cordero
we knew that
comeback.
already.
Exactly. Are you still a mentor to Ricky Romero?
I haven't really talked to him in a while and stuff, but I'll see him at all the college alumni events and stuff, and so I'll talk to him over there. But I haven't really stayed in too much contact with him. But it's hard. It was hard, watching him this year. Me and my wife and I, she went to school with him too, so we both know him, and it was tough to see him go through that. You never want to see a pitcher go through that, but especially someone you've known for so long and went to school with and stuff, it makes it even harder.
You can tell, or one can tell, watching him that it was a mental issue, not a physical issue. And
right.
Is that something that most ball players go through at one point or another?
Yeah, I think so. I remember with me, I used to struggle with the Braves, and it was more of a mental thing, because especially, for me, whenever we played down in Atlanta, they would always show this one clip every time I came in of me giving up a grand slam, a walk-off grand slam to Jeff Van Course. It always kind of got in my head, So I think every pitcher or every player, whether you're a pitcher or position player, you go through mental breakdowns sometimes where, or you just struggle and you just can't snap out of it.
I look at someone like Josh Hamilton and what he's dealing with right now, and you could tell that it really got to him at the end, that the team funk really got to him, that the fans booing him. It's got to be there's a whole other aspect to this that I don't think that people think about when they watch professional athletes, but they are attuned to what's going on around them. It's not, you can't constantly be, ice water in your veins.
Exactly. No matter how much, a player says, or they're not worried about that, deep down inside they are, otherwise, they wouldn't say that, because, they have everybody bringing up stuff, like with Josh, his contract situation, kind of struggling, especially after making that big error that pretty much cost him the division title. It weighs on guys, and fans do kind of fail to realize just how much everything outside of the game kind of affects players. Because they're just like everybody else. They have feelings. They get hurt sometimes, and they have to deal with stuff just like everybody else.
I think a good example of that, Chad, would be Pat Neshek last week.
Yeah.
Which I would imagine is something that not a lot of people, thank God, go through, but unfortunately you did.
Right. Yeah. It's hearing about him, and we have some mutual friends, so my wife was able to kind of get in contact with his wife and talk to him about kind of the stuff that we've gone through. But yeah, it's losing a child. It's something that it's every parent's worst nightmare, and you hope nobody has to go through it, but unfortunately people do, and especially being a baseball player, I think me and him, I think we're two of the only ones that I know of who have had to deal with that, and unfortunately for him, and he was on top of the world, the A's had just won the division title and stuff, so he was on top of the world, and to have everything come crashing down like that, it's just it's awful, but for him to be able to go out there, and throw in a playoff game just a couple days after that happened, that's something that had to be so hard for him, but at the same time, that probably helped him so much to kind of just get out there back on the field and, back into his comfort zone. And that's, because everybody grieves differently, and I think that's probably going to help him get through it.
I imagine that his teammates appreciated him wanting to be there with them and rallied around him as well.
Right, exactly. You're with your teammates more than you are with your family, during the season and stuff. And so I think, for him to be there with his teammates and, to be around them, they're gonna be his comfort. They're gonna help him get through it. They're gonna do whatever they can, and I'm sure they love having him come back. And I think hopefully they can kind of pull it through and continue it. Because I think the more he's around his teammates, I think the better off he's going to be.
We're finishing up with former Major Leaguer Chad Cordero. Chad, last time we spoke in the winter, you seemed a little bit hesitant to be embarking on a season without baseball. Now that you've done that, how does it feel? Do you miss it even more?
I miss it so much. It's baseball is my life. You know what I mean? It's something that I grew up with. I've been playing since I was 4 years old. So it's everything that I know. But at the same time, this last year and a half being home, it's been the best thing that could ever have happened. For me. I mean, I've been able to be home every day with with my wife and my kids. And it's been awesome. And we've been able to do so much stuff that baseball kind of was taken away from a little bit. We got to go on a huge summer trip. We actually just got back from our summer trip about a week ago. So, it's just allowed us so much stuff to be able to do and just spend, time as a family. Whereas, if I was still with baseball, right now, I wouldn't be able to do it, But so being home with my family it's been the best thing I think that could have ever happened, But at the same time, I'm ready to go out there and play again. I can't wait to get back on the mound again, and hopefully I can. If it happens, it happens. If not, I'm going to go out there and give it my best shot. But I mean, being home, like I said, it's been the best thing that could ever happen.
Chad, it's such a pleasure catching up with you as always, man.
Oh, thank you.
We'll get in touch when you get back from Japan, and we'll see if we can get you out to Montreal this winter.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
All right, no problem.
Have a great night. There he goes, Chad Cordero,